Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan on a big midsummer holiday weekend, the 4th of July weekend. I hope you're the actual 4th. I hope it went well for you. And on this long extended weekend, well, first of all, I hope it is a long weekend for you. I hope you get a chance to get out and take advantage of it. Have some fun. I mean, unofficially, basically, half the summer is gone now. Again, I say this every week. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how time continues not just to slide by, not just to slip by, but time continues to just fly by like a freight train. So you've got to take advantage of what you have right now. And right now what we have is midsummer in this great state of Michigan. So this is the time. This is the time to get out there and take advantage of these opportunities, these fishing trips, these camping trips, whatever it is. Make those memories now. Make those memories now for your family. If you're young, you've got young kids at home, show them something this summer that they will remember. If you're older and you've got grandkids, steal them for a weekend, steal them for a couple of days, take them up north, take them to the lake, whatever. They will remember those times with Grandma and Grandpa. Get them off the phones. Get them off the iPads. Now, you're not going to be able to get them completely off, right? But at least minimize the time on those electronic devices. Anyway, welcome to a new month, the month of July, the month that Governor Whitner has officially declared Michigan Wildlife Conservation Month. I'm sure the Michigan Wildlife Council was behind this. I'm sure they had something to do with this. God bless the Michigan Wildlife Council. I have mixed thoughts when I hear a declaration or a proclamation from an elected figure, because while it is always good to draw attention to something like wildlife conservation, I would never say, no, we don't want that kind of exposure. In my mind, every month is Michigan Wildlife Conservation Month. This is not something, it's like National Hunting and Fishing Day or Free Fishing Weekend or whatever. Or Earth Day. Earth Day is when it drives me crazy. Every day is Earth Day for us hunters and anglers and trappers, and we are conservationists year-round. This is not something we can celebrate on one day a year or 1 month out of the year. Yes, it's nice to bring attention to it, and thank you for doing that. I guess I'm not even going to say it. Not even going to say it. I had a birthday last week, so I'm a year older, so I'm a year wiser. So I've learned to bite my tongue sometimes and not say the things that I would normally say. So I won't say it. What else is going on? I've been out on Saginaw Bay on my beloved angler quest. Had some good fishing. Been fighting the wind. Honestly, I don't know what your fishing adventures have looked like this summer, but mine have been a lot of days of fighting the wind and some days of just not even going out because of the wind. Now, that Angler Quest is a big, beautiful, stable platform, and it can take a lot of water. The Angler Quest can take more water than I can, and I can take more water than some of my crews can, right? If you're taking people out who haven't been out before or who have a little experience out there, you want to show them a good time. You want them to be comfortable. The Angler Quest and I can fish in 3-foot waves. Absolutely. You just go downhill, do a downwind troll, and, it can be comfortable. But for people who aren't used to being out there, is that the experience? Is that the first experience you want them to have with that resource? I've told you before that I'm not a meat guy. I'm not a night crawler guy. And I've had some fun with this in the past, talking about, I'm not going to run crawlers, those dirty things. Look, I know that you can wash your crawlers off and they're not messy at all. I know there's probably no more effective fish catching technique than running crawlers on a spinner or a crawler harness for walleye. I know that. When I talk about hating crawlers, it's as much of a joke as anything. And it does rile you up. You crawler guys, I know you come back with me. What are you, Avery? Too good to run crawlers? No. It does drive me crazy to troll at 1.2 miles an hour when I can pull flicker minnows or flicker shads at 2.5 miles an hour and cover twice the water. And isn't it interesting, and I'm sure this is true of any body of water, but my experience is primarily on Saginaw Bay, and I'll tell you more about this in a minute. But it used to be, if you wanted to troll for summertime walleye on Saginaw Bay, you used Hottentots. Hottentots were the thing. And you know what? You can still catch fish on Hottentots. And then it went to flicker shad. And then it went to flicker minnows. Now, I'm really not sure if the transition from flicker shads to flicker minnows, because they're two different shape baits, I'm not sure if that was because of an actual change in the forage base on the bay, that the walleye were actually feeding on different shaped minnows, or if it's just anglers got fickle and switched over to flicker minnows and they worked, and now that's the rage. The rage? Rave? That's the rave. That's the hot bait, put it that way. And they are very effective. The hooks are for junk. They're very sharp, but they're very flimsy. You catch a couple of fish, you got to switch your hooks out. But the other day I was out, and we had a big fish on. Now, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a catfish. Maybe it was a big sheephead. Maybe it was a pike. I'd like to think it was a big walleye. We got a fish on. The guy in my boat's reeling it in, and the rod's bent over pretty good. I mean, there's some weight on this fish. And then, boop, rod goes straight up. Oh, he came unbuttoned. He came unhooked. No problem. It happens all the time. No big deal. He reels the bait in, and at the end of the line, all I have is the bill, the plastic bill of a number 7 flicker minnow. The bill broke right off the bait. I have a love-hate relationship with those baits. One of the reasons why I am so invested and enamored and interested in the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery, because we have good fisheries across our state. We have great trout fisheries. We have great salmon fisheries. We have great bass fisheries. We have great sturgeon fisheries. And we have many great walleye fisheries across the state. But that particular fishery, the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery, I have a long history with that fishery. Back when I was working in television news is when they were first starting to reintroduce walleye back into Saginaw Bay. And so I've seen that fishery redevelop and now thrive. And now there's so many walleye out there to the point the DNR wants us to thin them out. That's why they've decreased the size limit from 15 inches down to 13, and from 5 fish a day, increased the daily creel limit to 8 fish a day. They want us to thin those fish out. One reason is because the walleye, the theory is, they're eating all the perch. And almost every walleye I have caught this summer has been on a perch-colored, of some form or variation, perch-colored bait. So yeah, they're feeding on perch all right. What else? It is now time to apply for your fall turkey tag. Put that on your list of things to do. Otherwise, it'll get to be August 2nd. You'll go, oh, man, I forgot to apply. Because you know when you're out there hunting this fall that there's going to be longbeards walking by you. So why not take it? Well, in the fall, you can shoot a hen, too. So why not take advantage of that opportunity? You can apply during the month of July. The golf outing. The golf outing is coming up Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. This is an outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. We're full. You never know with a first-year event how it's going to turn out. I was cautiously optimistic, and I still am cautiously optimistic this will be a very good event. We're full, but we have room to sneak in some more golfers. We have room. If you want to be a part of this, go to mucc.org/golf. mucc.org/golf. You can apply there. You can sign up there to play and or sponsor. We've got some great sponsors, and I promised these sponsors I would give them a shout-out. I will right now. Security Credit Union, Northern Jack Pine Branch of the National Deer Association, GFL Environmental Services, Craig Plowman, Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy, Michigan Brand Meats, Trophies Africa, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, John and Debbie Craves, my brothers and sisters at Trinity, Trinity Athletic Boosters, Trinity Wild Game Dinner Committee, Fish Junkie Charters, Diebold Insurance, Yider Insurance, Heine Knott Vernon Insurance, Pizza Sam's in Midland, Whitmore Lake Rod and Gun Club, TJ Johnson Forestry. Those are just some of the people who have stepped up to help raise money for MUCC's youth camp. Love to have you involved. It's Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. If you want to join us, though, do not wait. There is a hard deadline, and I'm not going to tell you what that deadline is because you'll wait to the last minute, but you've got time, but you've only got a day or two. MUCC.org/golf, MUCC.org/golf. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Chad Stewart talking about deer. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews in our second hour. I hope to check in with Luke Pawlosky talking about muskie fishing on Lake St. Clair out of a kayak. Then Jordan Hoover talks about the DMI process. He was part of the UP group. And in our third hour, we're talking bass fishing in Michigan with Gerry Gostenik. And we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Lots coming up in these next 3 hours. I appreciate you joining me, and I hope you can stick around for the rest of the show. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoor Realtor. Matt is a longtime friend of mine. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and on Instagram, Matt Smith Outdoors. Well, I told you that one of the topics of conversation this week on the show was going to be deer hunting this fall in Michigan, the Deer Management Initiative. A little quick history here. There were 3 groups formed, Southern Lower, Northern Lower, and UP. It was a group of stakeholders, hunters, conservation groups charged with coming up with suggestions for deer management here in Michigan. Those suggestions were presented to the NRC last week. Chad Stewart is the big game specialist for the DNR. He is involved in deer management in Michigan up to his eyebrows, and we've got him on the show now to help try to figure out a little bit more about what's going on. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. How about you?
Always, I'm doing well, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. So bring us up to speed here, Chad. Where are we at now?
So we're at the rubber meets the road sort of part of this whole process, and that everything will culminate with the Natural Resources Commission meeting on July 11th. So it's just next week, and that's when the final regulations for deer management for the deer hunting season for 2024 will be decided. Backtracking, this DMI process really started back in January and probably even December. And I do have to correct you a little bit.
Sure.
There were 3 groups with the DMI, but there was a lower peninsula group. So that included representatives from the Northern Lower and the Southern Lower. There was a UP specific group. And then we actually worked very closely with our tribal partners. So that was sort of the third branch of those discussions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I did not watch the live stream that MUCC put out there, but I'm reading some reports online of things that were brought up, some interesting suggestions, options.
Yeah, so each group, especially out of the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula group, brought forward regulatory recommendations for change, and some of those could be acted on, sooner rather than later. So, for instance, there are some things that might take a statutory change through the legislature to implement. So, obviously, we can't act on that in such short order. That's more of a long-term approach. But there are several items that each group brought forward, and yeah, there are some of the classic big topics that have dominated deer discussion in both the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula over the past couple of years that were brought up. So this whole process really culminates in a complete reevaluation of how we've done deer management and a deeper dive into some of the data that we've used to make some of the recommendations that we've had in the past and what that impact of those recommendations has led to.
I welcome this discussion about revamping how we address deer management and deer hunting in Michigan. Chad, I feel like it's time. With everything going on in the world, with hunter numbers, with disease, yada, 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 it seems like the right time to do this, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the timing is appropriate, and really why these groups were brought forward was at the commission's request, and some of the things that we've been pointing to for a while is we've got major challenges on both peninsulas, and it's really reflected in the opposite direction in which deer herds are trending in each of those areas. So in our Lower Peninsula, especially our southern Lower Peninsula, we have a lot of deer, and I know that deer hunters that might sound great to a lot of deer hunters, but when we start seeing the level of conflict, whether it's increases in deer vehicle collisions, increases in crop damage. We've got disease on the landscape with chronic wasting disease and bovine tuberculosis, which certainly can affect our agricultural industry. We've got to keep things in balance, and certainly in some places we're seeing forest impacts as well. The Upper Peninsula is a very different story. We have very low deer numbers, and we've been seeing this sort of cyclically low harvest that's been occurring. And there's a lot of concerns with those low deer numbers. So that's why we split things up initially, is because the challenges presented on each peninsula are so different.
So what are some of the things that came up? I mean, I saw there was a recommendation about allowing baiting in counties that don't have CWD.
Yeah, I mean, we can start there with that was a recommendation that came out of the Lower Peninsula group, and I guess I will phrase this as we had each group build scenarios, because when we think about regulations, they're meant to sort of play off of one another, and it's really hard to find a singular regulation that everybody's going to support. So we talked, and these groups were very diverse in their makeup. So we talked about building scenarios that is sort of a give and take, but ultimately the whole package is meant to improve deer management rather than an individual piece. So it's the whole, the sum of the parts are greater than the parts themselves. Returning baiting was certainly one of the things that was brought up. Now that would be exempted from the known disease areas, but that was suggested to be brought forward. I don't believe that the commission is going to act on that particular one based on some of the discussions that came out of the work group meeting a couple weeks ago. But there are some other topics that came up as well, including making changes to the combination license, promoting and expanding the hunter access program, reshaping how we do our bag limits and focusing more on localized county-based deer management. The topic of APRs certainly came up, and that would be included. Expanding the late archery season has come up. One of the things that was very much supported but cannot be acted on as of right now is this idea of earning a second buck, which would take a legislative change. Other tweaks to the muzzleloader season in Zone 3, expanding the late antlerless season on private and public land was also brought up. So there's a host of items in those scenarios that were voted as the best scoring scenario that were brought up from the Lower Peninsula.
Why does earn a buck have to go to the legislature?
I don't know how much time we have in this segment. That's a long answer.
I mean, my understanding from the outside is DNR makes recommendations to the NRC and the NRC acts. So why does the legislature have to get involved?
It's the way that, so this is the legal opinion that we've received, is that it's the way that specifically the hunt-fish combination license is defined in statute. So if you were to go in the MCL language, there is language in there that defines what the hunt-fish combination license is. And if everybody knows what that is, that's sort of that bundle that you get that includes your fishing license and your combination license and your base license. I think it's $75 that you pay for. There are stipulations with how that's defined, and it basically is implied that you cannot enforce a sequential harvest based on the purchase of that license. So there are some complications. It's probably higher level than what I certainly can explain, but that's the legal opinion that we've received.
And you know, along the line of complicated issues or things that can't be acted on, I know there was talk of wolves and year-round coyote hunting and stuff, but those can't be addressed by this group at this time, right? I mean, the wolves are out of your hands anyway, so that's it came up. It was a topic of discussion, but nothing can be done on that now.
Yeah, there was a whole host of topics brought up by the Upper Peninsula group, including, you know, preparedness for a wolf hunt. But of course, wolves are still currently under federal authority and classified as an endangered species. So we cannot do anything with that. The topic of returning the year-round coyote season did come up in the Upper Peninsula group. We feel that it's appropriate to kick that back to the fur bear user group, since this was predominantly a deer user group. So there's just more conversation to be had on that topic.
So are we going to see some major changes this fall, or are we talking down the road?
I guess we'll find out next week. I don't know. There's certainly some major changes under consideration over the coming week. I don't know where that vote is going to go through the Natural Resources Commission. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that some changes will be observed. Whether or not they're viewed as major or not, or whether or not they will be major or not, I don't know how that's going to transpire. I think one of the needs and agreements that came out of both of those groups is that there is a need for major change. One of the challenges going through this DMI process has been the timeline. You know, we brought a group of people together. Some were very informed on statewide deer management and data and regulations, and others were just sort of the normal average hunter, and in some cases, you know, even non-hunters or lapsed hunters were brought in as well. So there was certainly a steep learning curve for a lot of individuals, and then to get to the point where we're developing recommendations from these groups to the point we're at today, we really only had about 3 to 4 months to get everybody going and to talk about these issues. So the timeline was very ambitious and I think was limiting in what could have these groups could have produced.
So real quick before the break, did the process accomplish what you wanted, or will we know after the NRC meeting?
I think it depends on how you want to frame this as a goal. If you're looking for major changes and improvements to deer management in a 1 year period, or really what's amounts to a 4-month period, I think that's an unrealistic expectation. I think it did set a new way to develop relationships and a new way of communicating and bringing in external voices in the deer management and development process. And I think in that case, it was a success.
All right, so we got to take a break here, Chad. Hang tight. The question for you after the break, okay, looking for input from outside sources. Will that get listened to? I'll ask you that question in depth after the break. We're talking with Chad Stewart, big game specialist for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. More with Chad Stewart after the break, and we'll wrap up the hour with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge, Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. I will be hunting bear just west of Newberry this fall. Hunting with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. Great facilities, great people, great location, great boat launch. Right there, just head out of the channel, go out a mile, couple miles, and you're going to be into the walleye. Full-service marine shop. Everything you can ask for. Linwood Beach was the site of the Walleye for Warriors event a few weeks ago, and it will also be the site of the annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament coming up in July. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Talking right now with Chad Stewart, big game specialist for the DNR. Chad, this whole process, again, looking at it from the outside, was designed to get input from what you guys call stakeholders, hunters and anglers, sportsmen's group, conservation group, non-hunters. I mean, everybody, the tribes, everybody that has a stake in deer management in Michigan. Now, I have heard that when this got to the NRC, that the NRC wasn't really interested in hearing all of what the UP group had to say, and furthermore, they really weren't interested in what you, the DNR, had to say. Is there truth to that?
Hey, I don't know if I can talk about some of that. I think there is genuine interest from the commissioners in hearing what the stakeholders are saying. I think there's genuine interest that the commission is interested in what the department's views are on these things. So I think some of the challenge that is coming up is that deer management is very complex. There's a lot of opinions in terms of what should be done. I think most people can agree on what a successful end product looks like, but there's a lot of disagreement on how to get there. And certainly that, our process was very rushed. It's new to us. It's going through this for the first time. And there were criticisms within, I think, each group in how the process was run. And certainly some of those criticisms are coming to light in terms of the fairness or the equity. But, when we talk about deer management in the Upper Peninsula, a lot of the conversation stems around antlerless harvest. And that was certainly one of the polarizing issues in the Upper Peninsula, with some members of the group thinking that it should and needs to be expanded, and other members of the group feeling that, those antlerless deer, specifically those does, need continued and even expanded protection. And I think that's some of the conversation that's been dominating in recent weeks, and some of the commissioners are struggling with, because they're hearing both sides, and both sides make compelling arguments.
Well, if you want to start an argument here in Michigan, you talk politics, religion, or deer management.
Very true.
So I'm going to get a personal statement from me, Mike Avery here. I really want to see something done. I want to see deer hunting in Michigan revamped. As a guy who has hunted deer in this state all my life, at this point I have lost my passion for deer hunting. I really am not interested in it anymore because of all the regulations, all the junk, all the fighting, all the hassles, all the minutia. This whole thing has taken the joy out of deer hunting for me, and I know I'm not alone. I continue to deer hunt because I want to continue the history and tradition of the process. I do it because it's part of our state's history and part of my personal history. But the passion's not there anymore. I think if we can simplify this, if we can make this just more enjoyable for everybody, and I know that's a huge task. I know maybe even it's impossible. But, man, I think we got to do something, Chad. I applaud you for trying to make this happen, but I almost feel like it's such a big issue that it's not going to be resolved.
Well, that's what history will tell us, right?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of there's just a lot of different opinions in how deer should be managed. What we really strive to do with deer management is to really try to cut out all of the external wants and needs and desires of sportsmen and sportswomen, and focus primarily on what is best for the deer herd. So that in our mind is the foundational piece of how recommendations are set forward. Now, some recommendations may have very little impact, and then it goes into what do sportsmen want, because then we can incorporate those and what that means. And we talked a lot about this at our meetings, and if anybody is interested, these meetings were taped and recorded and are available online at our michigan.gov/deer website. And then you just click on the Deer Management Initiative. It'll take you to a handful of recordings. I think you've got certainly over 30 and maybe close to 40 hours of recorded time if anybody's interested in hearing some of this. But we really try to focus on what's best for the deer, and then build in, what hunters want, make sure it's simplified, and continue that tradition going.
Well, the resources got to come first. We certainly agree on that. Chad, I appreciate your efforts in this. We will be anxiously watching the next NRC meeting, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Chad Stewart of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Coming up after the break, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky, again on two stations, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Look at if you are a first-time food plotter, or if you are a veteran at putting in food plots, I can recommend you get in touch with the folks at Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. The website, killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. You got a lot of time, a lot of money invested. What you do in these food plots now can have a direct impact on your fall hunting season. Check them out online, killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. And Rich Grazan would be the first to tell you the first thing you need to do is get your soil sample so you know what you're dealing with. Get your soil sample and get in touch with Killer Food Plots, killerfoodplots.com. Well, it's 4th of July weekend, midsummer. And I suspect the folks at Woods-n-Waternews have their feet up on the picnic table, sitting back, sipping a cup of coffee up north somewhere. But we'll find out. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. One of the primaries at Woods-n-Waternews, Michigan's premier outdoor publication, joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, how are you?
Great, Mike. Thank you. And you're exactly right. We are. The whole family came up north with us this year, so we're having a great time with the family. We got from ages 5 to 92.
Oh, my
in our
gosh.
House, about 16 or so people. So we're having a riot. The fish are not jumping in the boat, but we found a lot of 6-inch bluegills, so we're having fun.
So how many generations do you have?
So we got 4 generations. up
Four
here.
generations. Oh, that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
The fishing at that point is just a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, exactly right. But what even more exciting is we have been tracking a Bigfoot. So your listeners might want to know that.
What? I didn't expect to hear you say that.
We've had a riot up here. Yeah. The kids thought we found a Bigfoot, so we've been tracking it for a few days. It's awesome.
Well, I got to follow. So did you see a track, or did they see something, or what got their attention?
It could have been artificially made, Mike. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
We have fun.
Well, and enjoy your weekend up north,
Thanks,
because
Mike.
as soon as you get back downstate, man, you got to get back to work.
Boy. It's 2 months to the outdoor weekend. We got to get our August issue out when we get back. So yeah, it's going to be back to work, but that's all right. We don't mind that at all. So
is there still time for vendors, potential vendors, to get involved in the show? Because I always say, if you want to reach the maximum number of outdoor enthusiasts in Michigan, hunters, anglers, shooters, trappers, whatever, if you can put your product or material or service in front of the group at the Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend, you're going to reach a bunch of people.
Exactly right, Mike. Yes, and there is still time. We always get open spaces. We adjust every year to get more vendors in and make it more beneficial to the showgoers, and we would love to hear from them, and we'll work with them. We'll try to get them in. But absolutely right. It's hard to turn down. Putting 15,000 people in front of your product for 3 days from Friday to Sunday. So, yeah, we encourage people to come, call us. We'll try to get you in for sure.
Well, you say call then. How do we get in touch with you? Go to the website woods-n-waternews.com.
Absolutely, you can do that way. You can email us at www.page1-inc.com, or you could give us a call at our 810-724-0254. And we will get on it, and we'll try to work you in for sure.
Okay, so the August edition is coming up next, but why don't you tell me what's in the July edition? Because we're just kicking off July now.
Exactly right. You got it, Mike. And we got some great stuff in there. Of course, we got some fantastic fishing. Dave Mall, our kayak expert bass fisherman, did a great piece on free rigging for bass that is really enjoyable, and it's been around for a few years, but he's kind of refined it and gave us some great steps to do that. And of course, we cover we got a trolling crappie from Mark Romanak. It's a little different. A lot of people don't troll for crappie, so there's a good piece there. And we keep track of. We're still covering big elk stories. A young lady took a big elk last winter, and of course, we got the little piece on the new state record white perch in there. Those are just some of the cover stories, and it's loaded with some great stuff inside, too, as well.
Tom, do you listen, I have no experience in the print end of the business at all. If you get a month, and I can't imagine here in Michigan you would get a month that you don't have as much to cover, but can you make the magazine smaller that month, or do you have to put out a certain number of pages every time?
Yeah, well, we try to. We certainly want to give our subscribers and our people that buy the publication a good read for sure. We don't want to shorten them. So we try to keep it a minimum, but a lot of it's based on advertising. The more advertising you get, the bigger you can go. So we love that, and we love when our readers respond to the advertisers and make sure that they know they saw their ad in the Woods and Waters. That helps for sure. But yeah, so it's based on that, and like you talked about Michigan, we're never short of outdoor stories. Yep. We can always have outdoor stories, and we've always got a backlog, and I feel that some stories don't get in, but yeah, we never have a shortage.
Well, have a fun weekend with the family. Good luck in finding Bigfoot. When you find him, shoot a picture. I know you'll post it in the magazine, but I'll post it online too. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews, woods-n-waternews.com, woods-n-waternews.com. There's still time to be a part of the big outdoor weekend coming up in September, but that's not that far away. Woods-n-Waternews. We'll take a break. When we come back, kayak fishing for muskies on Lake St. Clair with Luke Pawlosky.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And as I say every week, I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. Now, most of those stations, in fact, I would bet every one of them, also offers an online stream of their program. So if you can't listen to the station on air, the online stream of those affiliates is also an option. In addition to that, I produce a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, and it's the same content. If you listen to the podcast, it's going to be the same interviews, the same comments as the radio show. But I make the podcast available if your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal. Now, where do you hear the podcast? You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it on the Facebook page. Oh, it's everywhere else. Amazon, Audible, Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeart, yada, yada, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player, Deezer, Odyssey, yada, 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 even on YouTube. It's an audio. Well, there's kind of video. I mean, you think of YouTube as video, but people watch/listen to the show every week on the YouTube channel. I also do podcasts, monthly podcast for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, and Primal Outdoors. So keep an ear out for those as well. I always talk here on this show about what a wonderful state this is and all the different outdoor recreational opportunities we have. And this time of year, I'm thinking a lot about fishing. We have world-class fishing in our state. So many different bodies of water to get out on, so many different species of fish to target. And it seems like people are always coming up with different and unique ways to target these fish. Now, I have fished for muskies on Lake St. Clair before. It is a wonderful resource. It is, it's beautiful. And that lake is full of fish. Now, when I was out on Lake St. Clair fishing for muskies, we were out in big 28, 32-foot boats. Luke Pawlosky of the Outdoor Conquest has taken this adventure to a different level. He reached out to me on Facebook. I've been following the guy for a while, but he reached out to me on Facebook. He showed me his most recent video, and I said, Luke, you got to come on the show with me. And he said, absolutely. And here he is on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Luke, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I am fascinated by the content that you're putting out there. You do such a great job, not just on YouTube primarily, but you're on Facebook and Instagram as well. Tell me about what you're all about.
Honestly, it's when I started the social media, it's essentially all about the outdoors in Michigan. I've always been a multi-species angler. I grew up in the thumb of Michigan, fishing the Saginaw Bay area on the east side. Back when the salmon fishing was really good, we used to fish Harbor Beach a lot and troll for salmon out there. Those type of things before we had to start traveling to Ludington. Grew up hunting, in Sanilac County, around the Tire area. My dad had a farm there, and spent a lot of my life hunting that area, and I still do today in those areas. And, as far as what I'm doing now, I've moved since, right? So I used to live in the thumb, grew up in the thumb. I've since moved to the Lake Orion area, and as of a few years ago, got exposed to Lake St. Clair for the first time in my life, and really opened my eyes to what type of fishery that really is. I mean, it's a world-class fishery, whether you're talking smallmouth bass, walleye fishing with the St. Clair River and the Detroit River at both ends of it. And then, I got introduced to muskie fishing a few years ago. I would fish from the shore for them in the fall time. And, it always fascinated me, the species itself, because of how difficult it is to catch, right? So I was a previous boat owner, since we moved, I really don't have a spot to store one. So a couple years ago, I sold it, and I was introduced into kayak fishing, and that gave me the opportunity to be able to store it how I want to indoors, and, be able to take care of the investment and still get out and enjoy these waters. So I've actually been targeting muskie out on Lake St. Clair, both now casting and trolling, strictly from my kayak. It's a 14-foot So it's a 14-foot Old Town Sportsman. It's an autopilot kayak. It comes set up, and Minn Kota actually designed a motor specifically for this kayak to use for fishing, but I actually threw an electric outboard on the back of it, which is what I use for trolling, so I can get up to a little higher speeds for trolling for muskie.
That explains when I watch your videos as you're cruising out there. And by the way, you're not just cruising the water, you're not just trolling the water near shore. I mean, you're out there in the middle of the lake in this kayak. But that explains the speed I see on your videos.
Yeah, so I have a 3 horsepower, 36-volt electric motor that the company actually designed specifically for kayak fishing, because kayak fishing has come a long way since just your run-of-the-mill sit-in style paddle kayaks. Now, I still own one of those to get into ponds and stuff like that where it's just easier to do so. But, yeah, so, I mean, just kayak fishing in general is evolved and is continuously evolving. And it's pretty impressive, some of these boats he's got that are out there, and like you said, you've seen some of my videos, and I mean, I'm able to land, huge muskie and be able to reach over the side, grab them out of the net without even fear of tipping or, tipping the kayak or falling out of it.
Yeah, I mean, some of these fish that I see you with, I got to believe if you were in neutral, you had nothing engaged, I got to believe these fish would actually pull you.
Yeah, so that's exactly how I troll. So the way I troll is a little unique compared to, I know you had mentioned you've been on some of the big tuna boats out there and trolling for muskies. So the way I do it's kind of unique. When I hook a fish, I shut the motor right off, and then I fight the fish.
Plus, you're at the level of the water. I mean, I can see this being an interesting and almost a very pure experience compared to traditional trolling.
It is, honestly, and I'm starting to think it's easier to keep the fish hooked up, too, because I'm able to keep my rod parallel with the surface of the water, right? And just like with anything else, whether you're bass fishing out of a boat or muskie or walleye, you've got that angle of your rod tip going down into the water, and sometimes that, is a double-edged sword being in a boat because you could lose fish as you're pulling them up to net them, right? I haven't found that with this so far. Like, I'm able to, when I'm ready to net a 45-inch muskie, I'm able to lay my rod sideways, get my net just right, and drag him in there without really his head even coming out of the water.
This may be a crazy question, but listen, I've seen boat traffic on Lake St. Clair, especially on the weekends, that's really heavy. I mean, you're there in a kayak. I can't believe your visibility is that great. Are you worried about boat traffic from recreational boats while you're out there?
Absolutely. So I do run I have a flag up. Can't always see it in the videos that I put out, but I do have a flag up. But I'm only out there 90% of the time on weekday mornings. So I work afternoon, evenings. So when I'm out there weekday mornings, and I literally have the lake to myself.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So are you?
Yeah, you won't find me out there on a weekend.
Not this weekend, that's for sure.
No, and if it is, I'm gonna be out there early, and I'm heading back towards the launch by 10 or 11 because the lake really comes alive about 11 a.m. on the weekends.
Do you go out there by yourself, or you take a couple of kayaks with you, a couple of others with you?
I go out by myself. I do have a friend that has a similar setup to mine. And if our schedules, jive, he definitely goes out there with me. But a lot of times I've been just kind of a solo fisherman, hunter, all that type of stuff. Even when I had my boat, and that's another reason why I kind of got rid of it is because it got to be a lot for me to always have to do by myself, whether it's going Detroit River and jigging walleye or just anything I'm doing, it's just, people are waiting on you and you're by yourself. You got to get it off the trailer, tie it off, get out of the way, and it's a lot of extra for one guy where, like with this kayak, I can launch it and I got that Minn Kota spot lock. I can get it away from the dock, hit anchor mode, and then walk away from it, go park my trailer, and then leave the ramp open,
Well, I love my angler quest, but I certainly see the appeal of kayaks. We've had Dave Mull on the show before talking about this, but he concentrates primarily on bass and on the inland lakes and rivers. To have a guy like you, Luke Pawlosky from the Outdoor Conquest, who concentrates on big fish in open water, I think is fascinating. Luke, I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Can you stick around a few more minutes?
Yep.
We're talking with Luke Pawlosky of the Outdoor Conquest. You can find him online. You can find him on YouTube. Check out his videos, especially his most recent videos of muskie fishing on Lake St. Clair. It's really pretty cool. I want to talk to Luke after the break about some of the technical points of how he does that and more. And then later in the hour, Jordan Hoover, who is a member of the UP Deer Management Initiative, following up on the conversation I had in the first hour about, is he really happy with how things worked out? Well, I can tell you right now, he's not, and a lot of others aren't as well. Coming up, Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Iron Mountain, WMIQ, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is a great bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and if he can help me get a charter license, he can help you become a licensed captain as well. Check out the website pmtcaptains.com for more info. John has classes across the state. I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com, pmtcaptains.com. We're talking fishing right now with Luke Pawlosky of the Outdoor Conquest. You can find him on all over the place online, but I would strongly suggest you go to his YouTube channel and check out the videos he's doing right now from Lake St. Clair, trolling muskies out of a kayak. And Luke, just if I hadn't seen these videos, just the concept of this is kind of crazy in some ways, but very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I do get a lot of questions as far as safety and this and that. And, I take all necessary precautions that I can do, whether I'm in a kayak or in a boat on the water, right? And like we had discussed, I usually only will find myself out there when it's when the pleasure boat traffic is at all-time low anyways.
Yeah. I'm, as a guy who, spent much of my career in video, and I still do, some online stuff, I'm really fascinated when I look at your camera setup and your angles. It almost looks like you're using one of these new 360 cameras now.
Absolutely. I started using the 360 camera this year. So the one I use is the Insta360 X4. It's the new one they come out with. And it was a learning curve for me. I mean, I edit all my own videos, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. I do all that myself, but the learning curve to edit with the 360 has been a challenge, but I'm getting better with each one. But it's like having a cameraman sitting on the front of the kayak with me, which is awesome because I can capture, almost everything, and that was kind of my goal because it's one difficult thing about trying to film videos from a kayak is to get to try to be able to capture every moment of it, right? So I'm able to pretty much do that with this. And, they come with these fancy, they call them invisible selfie sticks. Mm-hmm. And it extends out to like 5 or 6 feet, I believe. So it's like some people ask me if I'm using a drone because you can't see the stick and, it's like an overhead shot of me, right? But you can't see a camera boom. You can't see nothing. So it's really wild.
All right. I don't want to get too far inside baseball here, but I'm fascinated by this. So then this 360 basically shoots everything, and then when you edit it, you go through and pick out the framing that you want?
I mean, yes, that's basically it. It's got a camera lens on both sides of it, and then there's like some type of prism that's in there that captures the side angles as well.
Man. Well, it's perfect for what you're doing because the angles that you're able to get out there are just phenomenal. I mean, I feel like I'm in the boat with you as you're landing these big Lake St. Clair muskies.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that was the ultimate goal, is to, because I enjoy doing these things, and I really wanted to try to provide the best, the best video I could for people that take the time to watch it, and I do. I've been getting a lot of comments about the new camera, and people seem to really enjoy it.
Well, you're a fishing educator. You're also an entertainer because I find your videos entertaining. I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. But you did have an interesting post a week or so ago about this whole concept of being a pro staffer. And you said, look, don't be careful what you sign up for because make sure it's a mutually beneficial agreement. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is just from experience, I think a lot of people like pro staffs are different than a sponsorship, right? They're two totally different things. And when it comes to a pro staff, companies they win in the end. And what I got out of it was being a pro staffer, you're basically a glorified customer because they're asking you to promote their products to the people out there on the internet, right? And by promoting the product, they're giving you a very small discount, but at the end of the day, they're the ones still reaping the benefits, right? You may get like a code, like, hey, use my code to save this and that. But it gets to be a lot of work for little return, right? So I think people think like pro staff means you're a pro, but it's actually promotional staff rather than professional staff, right?
Jim, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I find as a lifelong broadcaster, TV and now in radio, I find social media so interesting because if you have good content and a good product, and you're persistent and consistent in your posts, you can build up quite an audience. And you don't need, all the help from people outside. You can reach people on your own, and I see you doing that, Luke. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, and absolutely. I'm 100% unsponsored, and it's by choice, I guess, because again, I do a lot of different things, and I plan to go to Lake Michigan and try for salmon this fall out of the kayak when they start coming to the pier heads. That's like on my bucket list. So, whenever, usually end of August, beginning of September. So that's something I'm looking forward to attempting, right? And I just enjoy doing it. So I had the right company come down the line in the future and offer me an offer I couldn't refuse. Sure, I'm always open to I'm all ears all the time. But just like I tell my wife, everything's for sale for the right price.
Hey, that's the American way, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
I am glad to hear that you're thinking about a Lake Michigan adventure because that was one of my questions for you. Because you've kind of, I don't want to say perfected, but you've got this Lake St. Clair muskie trolling dialed in. It wouldn't be a major leap to take it to Lake Michigan for kings.
No, and honestly, I still have all my trolling gear because I used to run a 20-foot or 21-foot fiberglass trolling boat out there, and I still kept all my gear but sold the boat. So I still got a lot of the stuff to do it. I also got a recommendation. Somebody told me I should try to go for sturgeon out of the St. Clair River. So that's had my wheels turning. If I were to do that, I would definitely get with one of my buddies that fish for them regularly out of a boat just to kind of make sure they're going to be there too. But that's definitely had my wheels spinning for sure.
And you talk about a fish that would tow the boat. Right there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you actually anchor or would you spot lock above a hole and fish sturgeon like the guys in the bigger boats do that actually anchor up?
I'd spot lock. Yeah, I think actually anchoring in the kayak would make it even more dangerous. So I would probably just spot lock, and I could hold spot lock for hours. So I'd be good.
So do you put this boat on charge? Are the batteries on charge every night, or what are the details of this?
Yeah, so my main trolling motor in the front runs off a 12-volt. I use a lithium battery, so I charge that after every trip. And then my I'll call it my outboard motor in the back. That's a 36-volt, and different charger, different battery. But yeah, after every trip, I charge them up. I've never had an issue running them dead. Like I've trolled 6 hours for muskie and never had an issue. So
and you've got,
knock on wood, I guess.
And you've got some kind of a fish finding unit, some kind of a GPS or navigational setup in front of you too.
Oh, so that's the other cool thing. I actually use Live Scope to troll. Live Scope's a really big deal for bass fishing and stuff like that. But I actually learned to utilize it trolling. So I point it behind me, and what makes, I think, my trips can be a little more successful at times is that I know exactly right in the water column where my baits are at, and I can see the weed lines and stuff like that, and I can put my baits basically right in their face and know where they're at. And actually, my first muskie video that I put out for trolling, I think it was like 3 videos ago, I was actually filming my Live Scope while a fish came up and hit a lure. It was like once in a lifetime shot, but it's in there, it's on there, you can see it. Totally uncut and unedited. I was actually filming my Live Scope screen, and I was talking about how I set it up, and a fish launched up out of the weed bed and grabbed my lure and fish on.
Man, Luke, you've got some cool things going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to check out that video. I haven't seen that one yet. I'm going to go back a couple of videos and look for that. But very cool. So what is, how long will you chase those muskies out there on Lake St. Clair this summer? Is that a full summer deal, or is it the heat of the summer, or what?
I'm going to target them most of the summer. And again, I used to really focus on smallmouth bass, and I used to do a lot of those bass fishing tournaments, but I kind of grew away from that, and I'll probably target them most of the summer. But really the fall is going to be one of my favorite times to target them, because then they start pushing back shallow and they start stacking up at the mouth of the, wherever there's inflowing water to the lake. The muskies start finding their way that way to chase bait and feed up for the winter. And that is going to be an exciting time of year for me, is the fall, which, it's, as a avid hunter and a bow hunter and stuff like that, it's like a flip of the coin for me. What am I going to do? Because it's hard not to go after those fish, because it's such an adrenaline rush, right? So I think I'm gonna find myself on the water more this fall than necessarily in a tree stand.
It's a great state we live in, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And Luke Pawlosky of the Outdoor Conquest, you do a great job in promoting our fishery and the way that you do it. It's unique enough that it got my attention, and it's getting a lot of other attention. So again, congrats to you, and keep up the good work.
I appreciate it, Mike, and I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. Luke Pawlosky of the Outdoor Conquest. You can find him, again, go to YouTube. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook as well. But if you want to see some very, very cool videos, especially using that 360 camera, which is something I've been looking at and haven't pulled the trigger on yet, but very, very cool. Really does a great job. The Outdoor Conquest, Luke Pawlosky. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I'm going to switch gears completely. We're going to talk with Jordan Hoover in the UP, following up on our conversation in the first hour about deer management. Jordan was part of the UP DMI, the UP Deer Management Initiative group. And I want to ask him how it's going now, because I'm hearing some interesting comments. Jordan would know, because he was there firsthand. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that, brings you this sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife coming out of my pocket and locking open. People come up to me all the time now, and they pull the Rapid River knife out and they go, "Hey, listen to this, Avery." I love Rapid River knives, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Go to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us. Use the promo code Avery10. You'll get 10% off. Now, if you try that right now, I just heard from Chris Durson, company owner. He said they are revamping the website. If the promo code doesn't work right now, wait until the new website is in place. Or just go to the showroom, Rapid River Knife Works on US 2, just east of Rapid River. The showroom is beautiful. It's a destination. And as an alternative, if you go to Jay's Sporting Goods in Clair or Gaylord or the website jaysportinggoods.com, Jay's is honoring the promo code Avery10 as well. But just know that Jay's doesn't have the selection, of course, that the showroom in Rapid River does. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. Speaking of the UP, my guest right now, Jordan Hoover, a guy I've talked to here on the show before. He's an avid outdoorsman from the UP. He was also a member of the UP DMI, the Deer Management Initiative Group. I was talking about this in the first hour with Chad Stewart of the DNR. But Jordan was intimately involved in this thing, and I want to talk with him a little bit as a follow-up. Jordan, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you joining me.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so tell me an overview. Was this process what you hoped it would be or what you expected it to be?
You know, being honest, going into this, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what it would be, but I was certainly hopeful for a positive outcome because although there's been work groups before, nothing was ever done quite the way this was. You know, work groups, the heads of stakeholder groups are who chairs the committee. And in the case of the DMI, for the first time ever, there were seats at the table for independent, unaffiliated outdoorsmen and women like myself. And that recognition that we needed a broader perspective and a greater pool of input, I think, was a pivotal decision.
How were the meetings themselves? I've got to believe that when you get a bunch of passionate deer hunters together in a room, there's going to be some spirited discussion.
Oh, sure. I mean, without question, you put 10 deer hunters from the state of Michigan in a room, and you're going to get 15 opinions every time. But, you know, I would say that most individuals, by majority, in both the UP and LP teams were fantastic. They were wonderful people. They were passionate. They were knowledgeable. They were good to work with. They were respectful. You know, as always, with anything, there's some bad apples, some bad actors that caused a little grief. But, you know, overall, I'd like to think that was kept to a minimum.
What basic recommendations came out of your group?
So, without having it in front of me per se, this is just a 10,000-foot view. Our team recommended reinstatement of the archery antlerless tag with a cutoff date of November 14th to protect disproportionately vulnerable migrating or yarding deer. We wanted to see a reduction in the record black bear population. Nothing crazy, you know, a conservative reduction, but nonetheless doing something to address that high level of predation. You know, black bears are well documented to be fawn slayers, and some estimates are suggesting that we may be losing upwards of 30,000 fawns a year in the UP just to bears alone. So that was a big concern. Of course, in the UP, we have a unique suite of apex predators, high density of apex predators. You know, the wolf topic is always a hot-button issue. As you're well aware, they're on the ESL, and the state doesn't at this time have management authority, so there was nothing to be done with that issue. We did want to see bear numbers reduced. We recommended reinstatement of the year-round coyote hunting and trapping. There was a recommendation to go to a QDM-type approach, installing antler point restrictions additionally on the single license. Those were the primary regulatory measures that were taken, and there was a slew of non-regulatory things that we addressed. For example, habitat degradation, habitat loss. Those were all headline issues we spent a great deal of time addressing and talking about how to bring positive change to deer range, both summer and winter, DWCs, etc.
When you say habitat in the UP, I immediately think of deer yards.
Yes, and a lot of our discussion did center around those things because, as you know, up here in the UP, those deer are on the northernmost end of their range, and the thermal covers are mission critical to the survival and prosperity of our herd.
Jordan, hang tight. I've got some other questions I want to ask you, including, and I'll save your response till after the break. But I'm curious. Your group has these suggestions. You spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of intensity coming up with these. What was the reaction when you brought this down to the NRC meeting here last week? But we'll talk about that after the break. We're talking with Jordan Hoover, who was a member of the UP Deer Management Initiative group. When I first heard about this, I thought this is a great idea. If it works like it was sold to us as, that the NRC and the DNR, primarily NRC, were looking for input. They wanted to know what people thought. That's why they brought them all together. Now, does the NRC really care? I don't know. But I'm going to ask Jordan that question after the break. And then coming up in hour number 3, we're going to switch gears once again and talk about bass fishing in this great state of Michigan with Gerry Gostenik. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on 98.5 WUPS all across the northern part of the Lower Peninsula. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Now, normally, the Ask Avery segment is a segment where you're asking me a question. Well, listen, this can be the Ask Avery segment. Okay, I didn't get this question from somebody, but in theory, I could have gotten this question. Hey, Avery. Send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Hey, Mike, I hear a lot about the DMI concept, the Deer Management Initiative concept. How is that going, and how did the NRC react to the recommendations by the deer management groups? Well, guess what? Jordan Hoover, who was a member of the UP DMI, is on the phone line with us now. And Jordan, I actually do have that question. What was the reaction then when you met with the NRC? How did they respond to what you guys had put so much work into and suggested?
Well, the commission decided that they were going to have what they call DMI work day that would be open to the public, and they were going to deliberate the recommendations from both the UP and LP teams. I had made the suggestion to both the commission and the department that I felt very strongly at least the final report writing teams from both groups should be present and on hand to respond to any questions or need of clarity that the commission may have, and be there at the finish line after a month-long process that we all poured our soul into. And that recommendation was not taken. The commission elected to simply sit with the department, and they opened up public comment for a span of only 3 minutes per person. And when they opened the meeting, Chairman Baird established kind of a rubric, if you will, for how the commission was going to evaluate the recommendations. And what the commission did was they created boxes, they called them. So box 1 was recommendations the commission would accept as written and was favorable to. Box number 2 was recommendations the commission was not favorable towards, but would hear argument for. And box number 3 was recommendations that the commission was going to refer to a different venue and a different time. So, for example, our recommendation to moderately reduce the black bear numbers was referred to the next bear reg cycle and the bear forum. The same thing with our coyote recommendation. It was referred to the fur taker user group and the next regulation time frame.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because this is a deer management group, right? Or no?
Sure. Well, I think that there's both sides to that argument. I mean, you simply can't separate the impacts of these predators, especially in the densities in which we have them in the UP, from the deer management discussion. They are tied. But obviously there's a procedure and a protocol that has to be followed, and we understand that. The larger concern for my team was the fact that out of all the recommendations, regulatory recommendations that we brought forward to the commission, not one of our team's recommendations were chosen to go in box one. Nothing was accepted.
Wow.
That was obviously devastating and very disappointing to myself and other members of our team. And, you know, it leaves us scratching our head, Mike, like, what did we just spend 4 months doing?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Why did they bring a group together and ask for input, then apparently decide not to listen to that input?
You know, I will say that the final vote won't be cast until the 11th of this month down in Lansing.
Right.
This was a preliminary deliberation, but nonetheless, it was equally concerning. You know, we certainly didn't expect that they were going to rubber stamp the whole package, Mike, but we thought, you know, we put a lot of effort into this, and these are some good, sound, science-based recommendations, and maybe we'll get 3 or 4, you know. To get 0 was staggering.
All right, Jordan, let me ask you this. Are you speaking for the UPDMI or for Jordan Hoover?
I am speaking as Jordan Hoover.
Okay. I just want to make that distinction. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. You know, the other thing that was troubling to myself and others that I spoke to is as the meeting proceeded, some of the commissioners seemed really lost on the subject matter, as if, for lack of better terminology, it's like they came to class without studying, which was perplexing to us because our final report was submitted May 24th to the commission, and the LP team had submitted their final report a week hence. So there's been a lot of time for the commission to read through everything and digest and formulate questions, and it just didn't seem like due diligence was done by some of the commissioners, and that was obviously very frustrating. Another point of contention for myself and other members of our team was the fact that the, air quotes, B board was brought back for formal consideration before the commission. And for those unaware, in the final regulatory phase of our team's deliberations, we had 3 poster boards, an A, a B, and a C. And each of those had a suggested regulation package on them. And we voted as a team on what we felt was most likely to achieve the management goals and objectives that we established as a group. And the B board fell woefully short of that, and we moved forward with A and C.
Jordan, listen, I apologize. I do have to cut you off. I'm out of time. I appreciate this insight because I haven't talked to anybody who is in a part of the DMI. We will know more when the NRC meets. I'm eager to hear these results, as I'm sure you are. And this is strictly a comment from Mike Avery. I really wonder lately what role the NRC is actively playing. Is this the best way to manage our wildlife in the state? I don't know. A lot of people are wondering. Hour 3 coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on a basically a 4th of July weekend, right? I hope that it was a long weekend for you. I hope, regardless of whether it was or not, though, that you're getting a chance to get out and take advantage of our state this summer because, you know, we are kind of unofficially halfway through the summer, right? It just blows my mind that time continues to fly by so fast. But I was pointing this out in the first hour. This is the time right now, the time of year to make those memories. You know, for many people, they dream about summertime. They wait for summertime here in Michigan. It's easy to get so caught up in other things. It's easy, if you've got young kids, it's easy to get caught up in travel ball. It's easy to get caught up in, you know, the kids' sports. It's easy to get caught up at work, you know, to get caught up in work, right? And work is a valuable thing. We have to do that. But it's so easy to get tied up in the day-to-day minutia that is life and things that need to be done, that we sometimes lose track of the big picture. And the big picture in some ways is taking care of our mental health, taking care of time to relax, taking care of just time to get outside and enjoy, to get in the water, in the woods and breathe fresh air, watch a sunrise, watch a sunset, whatever it is. Go camping, boating, biking, fishing, whatever it is. So please, this is my plea as we are basically halfway through the summer. Don't let the rest of this summer get away from you. Before you know it, it's going to be September and it's going to be hunting seasons. Okay, enough of that. We have so many great fisheries in our state. You know, I was talking in the previous hour about Luke Pawlosky muskie fishing on Lake St. Clair out of a kayak. We have world-class muskie fishing here. We have world-class salmon fishing here. We have world-class trout fishing here. We have world-class walleye fishing here. You know what else we have? We have world-class bass fishing here. Gerry Gostenik knows this firsthand, probably better than anybody. If you go to his website, greatlakesbassfishing.com, you'll see what I mean. And Gerry's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Gerry, I've been trying to connect with you for a couple of weeks. I appreciate your time now. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing just great. But, man, you've been a busy guy, and I suspect most of that has been on the water chasing your beloved bass.
Yeah, it's been a crazy 3 months here. For me, you know, the start of our season is usually, you know, ice out April 1st, and it's extremely busy from now until this 4th of July holiday. So I've been out of the water out of 90 days, probably, I don't know, 80. So it's been busy.
Has most of that time been on Lake St. Clair, Gerry?
I've kind of split it. We've done. I do a little bit of walleye, you know, in the river in April. So it's been split between I'd say probably 75% St. Clair, 10% on the river, and a handful of trips on Lake Erie. You know, we do have to play the wind at times, and sometimes that lower Detroit River, Lake Erie, if you've got a hard west wind or northwest wind, you can find some fish down there at times too. Also, it breaks up the monotony.
Sure. Sure. How is our bass fishery in Michigan, and is it primarily a smallmouth fishery or largemouth?
Well, I would say what gets the national attention here is definitely the smallmouth fishery, but we've got some excellent largemouth fishing on basically all of our big bodies of water. I mean, Saginaw Bay is a spectacular largemouth fishery, particularly almost the whole inner bay is, you know, lined with cattails and reeds and shallow water, and it's first-class largemouth fishing. St. Clair, a lot of the largemouth fishing is kind of relegated to the north end. You got to have weed cover. And on the south end and eastern side, you don't have a lot of, you know, classic largemouth habitat. So the north end and the northern Michigan side's got a lot of great largemouth fishing. And the lower Detroit River is also great largemouth fishing.
Will you ever find smallmouth and largemouth together, or is it two distinct and different habitats?
You do. One of the places that you do find them together, particularly is like the Mile Roads area. You can find smallmouth bass and largemouth bass spawning right next to one another, literally. Like you can see one's a largemouth, one's a smallmouth. So that area of the lake, they share some of the same territory.
Is it like fishing for two different critters, or a bass is a bass and you don't know whether
No, I would say, you know, and especially this time of the year, you know, largemouth are going to be in a lot of the thicker weeds or deep weed lines, and it's almost, you're going after two different critters right now especially.
So how do you fish them? What are the tactics and techniques and baits and such?
Well, which species, Mike?
Well, let's. I was going to say, what is the difference between them? I mean, let's talk about smallies first.
Well, I think right now a lot of the smallmouth, no matter where you're at in our state, are going to be in their summer pattern, which means they're going to be in a little bit deeper water. Let's just use like Grand Traverse Bay for an example. Most of the fish are going to be done spawning right now. So what'll happen is they'll sort of migrate to the break lines in a little bit deeper water. So probably without question, a drop shot rig is probably the number one bait all over this state right now for smallmouth bass. And that's just kind of a glorified at a weight at the bottom, and your hook is anywhere from 12 to 18 inches up the line. And you've got a small finesse bait. Probably my number one bait is a Strike King Baby Z2, which is made out of the Elastec type material that floats. So when that bait's on that drop shot rig, it stands straight out. And it just looks like a little minnow. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but it's a very productive and deadly rig, and it's my number one bait at this time of the year.
And then if you were targeting largemouth?
Well, a lot of them are going to be the fish that you're targeting shallow, probably like a frog, in the lily pads and heavy weeds, sometimes flipping Texas rig baits to get down inside of the heavier weeds. You have a half-ounce weight or so, and you can kind of punch, they call it, punching the mats. That's a real popular technique. Or if you're fishing the deeper weed lines in some of our inland lakes that have largemouth, like an old jig and pig type lure, a half-ounce black and blue jig, kind of fished on the edge of the weeds is real productive also.
Gerry, how did you end up as a bass guy? There are so many different species to target, and I'll be honest, until recently, I didn't think of Michigan as a bass fishing state. How did you end up where you're at?
Well, I think when I was a little kid, I just kind of started watching Bassmaster on TV and some of the older fishing shows. I don't want to date myself, but they had Virgil Ward and Roland Martin and Orlando Wilson and also the In Fisherman. I can remember the old In Fisherman TV programs, and just kind of started, applying all that stuff I saw on TV to the lakes around me. And I'm actually up at my family cottage for a week here in Lewiston, Michigan, and my bass fishing started right here on East Twin and West Twin lakes, and some of the little pond-like lakes we have behind the cottage, and that's where my fishing started. So
that's got to be a nice break from the big water of St. Clair and Erie and the big southeast water in southeast Michigan to fish in a smaller northern Michigan inland lake. Nice change of pace.
It is. It kind of, whenever I come back up here, it brings me kind of back to my roots. And I own our family cabin now that my grandparents built, and coming up here just makes me feel like a kid again. So I still have my grandfather's 12-foot aluminum boat and a little trolling motor, which is where it all started. That boat is priceless to me.
Oh, that sounds very cool. We're talking with Gerry Gostenik about bass fishing in Michigan. Go to his website, GreatLakesBassFishing.com. That's GreatLakesBassFishing.com to learn more about Gerry, what he offers. I believe you can also book trips with Gerry on that website, GreatLakesBassFishing.com. We will take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but when we come back, we'll talk more with Gerry about fishing for smallies, about fishing for largemouth. As a guy myself who's not a bass fisherman, I am an opportunistic bass fisherman. For example, the pond behind the house has some bass in it. When the grandkids were smaller and used to fish back there, I might occasionally be known to throw a lure back there, and whatever hit. And I have gone, back when I had a TV show, I've gone out on Saginaw Bay, out by the Charities with some guys targeting bass. That was very cool. So I get it. I get the appeal. I get that they're wonderful fighters. I get that we have a tremendous world-class resource here. But I'm not a bass guy. That's why I love talking with guys like Gerry Gostenik who are, so I can learn more about this resource. And that's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state, Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. Let's jump around again. Let's go back to the west side. Let's go to Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. As they have for me, maintenance, projects, planning, pruning, trimming. I mean, big projects like a backyard pool or a backyard kitchen, to smaller projects like we did at our house with tearing up the mulch and putting in stone. And it really, really looks nice. I've had a lot of folks from Reader do work at our house, and every one of their crews has been very conscientious, very hardworking, and they treat us and our house and property with respect, and that means a lot to me. So Reader is kind of your one-stop shop for all of your outdoor needs, whether it's your primary residence or if you got a place up north or a little getaway. Get in touch with the folks at Reader. I think they can help you out. The website, readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. While you are online, jump on over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My website is pretty much a jumping off spot or a portal to my different social media sites. So if you go to MikeAveryOutdoors.com, there you'll find links to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Also, while you're online, go to this website, GreatLakesBassFishing.com. GreatLakesBassFishing.com is the website of Gerry Gostenik, a very well-known and very accomplished bass fisherman here in Michigan. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Gerry, in the first segment, you mentioned a term that I am fascinated by. I haven't seen it in action yet, firsthand, but live scope. Tell me more about that and how you use it.
Well, I actually don't have it yet.
Okay.
I'm sort of late to the game.
Well, let me rephrase that, because I have live scope here written in my notes. And what I had intended to ask you, and let me rephrase, is there are a lot of people worried that live scope will change the way we bass fish and that it's an unfair advantage. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that there may be some truth to that, but kind of the way I see it is it's new technology, and I can remember back when I first started on the pro trail, guys were complaining about GPS back then. So I think it's new, and yeah, it works. But in talking to a lot of my customers who are from down south, the fish start to get conditioned to it. You know, they can hear that thing, and I think once fish start getting used to it, they actually turn away from it, from what I'm hearing. So I don't know. I'm fine with it. You know what I mean?
Do you think fish hear or feel or sense traditional sonar and downscan and side scan as well?
Oh, I definitely think they can. So, you know, I just think it's new technology, and I just think it's going to become a standard fare, just like your GPS and regular sonar are now. But it's expensive right now.
Oh, it is.
So
yeah,
I'm kind of waiting for the Gen 3s to come out, and you know, like all the electronic stuff, the older stuff will become, you know, a lot cheaper. And but you know, on Lake St. Clair, I think what you find is the guys who are using that stuff, you become so focused on that unit in front of you, and you find chasing 2 or 3 fish around and cast here, cast there, and it kind of changes the experience in my. I mean, I catch thousands and thousands of fish a year without it, or with regular side scan or 2D sonar. So I think at times it could be helpful, or kind of a neat thing to show people, but I don't need it for what I'm doing.
Did I hear you say you used to fish tournaments?
Oh, I fished the National Trail for a decade.
Oh, you did? Are you still? You're not still doing that, are you?
No, I don't fish tournaments at all anymore. I'm so busy guiding, and I don't need to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go beat my brains out on the lake and make less money or no money for what I could do guiding. So
how is the process of the fishing itself, not everything surrounding it, but fishing itself? How is the mindset different when you go out on the water for a tournament versus taking customers on the water?
Well, a tournament, you're only looking at, if it's a team tournament, for example, on Lake St. Clair, you only need 5 fish. You need big ones. So most of my customers, they'd like to catch big fish, but you want to catch a handful of big ones or go catch 50 nice ones. You know what I mean? So that's the different mindset. So most people want numbers and a mix of size.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you ask people before a trip, what are you looking for today? What is your expectation of the day? Do you put it in their hands?
No, I think most people just want to go catch as many as they can, and if they happen to get some big ones, fine. I have had, over the years, one guy in particular comes to mind that he wanted a 6-pounder, and we came up to Burt Lake and Mullet Lake pre-spawn in early May, and he said he would fish for 5 days for one bite. And a 6-pounder is considered a lifetime achievement in smallmouths. So, and we got it for him. He actually caught 2 that trip.
You did.
We did. So mission accomplished there. But most people don't have that kind of patience, or they're more interested in just catching fish.
So if a 6-pounder,
Lake St. Clair is a great place to do it.
Yes, absolutely. If a 6-pounder is the fish of a lifetime, what's a good solid fish for a Michigan bass? One that you can be very proud of and take a picture of and get a replica, or if you're in a tournament, it's a good solid fish.
I would say a 5. A 5-pound smallmouth is that's a quality trophy fish. I don't know what a master angler is here, but I think it goes by inches if you're letting it go, and most of those 5-pound fish are going to be in that 22 inch range, on our big water.
Will you see 5-pounders every summer?
Oh yeah. There's enough of them in there. Not tons of them, but enough of them to where they're in a week's time. Let's say I'm fishing 7 days, I'll probably catch 3 or 4 during the week.
Wow. Gerry, what's your advice on this 4th of July weekend? A lot of people are up north. They're visiting the lake. They're visiting the cabin. What's your advice for somebody who's on one of these small northern Michigan lakes who wants to go out and catch some bass? How do you approach or dissect one of these smaller bodies of water?
Well, if you're going out this weekend, get out early.
Yeah.
Daylight. But now the inland lakes are a little different. They don't have the numbers of fish that the big waters do, like Grand Traverse Bay or Lake St. Clair, and they generally don't have the size either. Fishing is tougher. So we generally have 2 different type of lakes in Michigan. You'll have like the tannic water, dark water lakes that are traditionally like largemouth lakes if you've got a lot of weed cover, lily pads, or you'll have your real clear water type inland lakes like Torch. Over here, closer to Lewiston, Grand Lake, and Long Lake, those are great smallmouth lakes. So I think you got to determine, number 1, what type of lake you're fishing. And then number 2, top water always works great this time of the year. So if you're out early and it's, fairly calm, that's always a good start. And time of the year, water temperature should dictate, a lot of what you're going to be throwing.
a topwater bait, to have a big bass come up and hit something on the top, on the surface, that's got to be a rush.
Yeah, it's there's short windows where those things work, and right now when bass are post spawn, when they're finished spawning, a lot of times it's a great bait to use. There's still a few fish that are hanging out in the shallows, and low light or early morning or evening are great times to throw that. Or if you happen to have a cloudy day where it's calm out, they'll bite that thing all day.
Gerry, you talked about getting out early. Is that because boat traffic shuts the fish down, or just that it's a hassle to fish around all the recreational boaters?
Well, I'll use right here on West Twin Lake, for example, right down at the end of our street. It's a great, all sports lake. It's super shallow. There's going to be a lot of boat traffic out there. And if you're not out there early, the fish are going to get run over by pleasure boats, and they're going to scatter to a little bit deeper water and be skittish. So it's real important, especially during the holiday weekends, to get an early start and plan on fishing from 6 to 10.
Perfect. Hey, if we go to your website, greatlakesbassfishing.com, can we? Is there a process on there we can actually book trips with you?
I don't have a booking feature online. The best thing to do is call or text me.
And is that number on the website?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, so I'll recommend that people go to the website, greatlakesbassfishing.com, greatlakesbassfishing.com. You'll find Gerry's number on that site, and you can either call or text him. And then are you fishing now till what, right on through the fall?
Yeah. This 4th of July is kind of the unofficial break, and on Lake St. Clair, it's when the fish sort of get in their summer pattern. So we'll be fishing finesse techniques, drop shot, Ned rig, until the water starts cooling down, and that's usually mid-September. So fish are full-blown summer pattern on the big lake right now.
Well, Gerry, enjoy this break in your action, and I appreciate your time. Again, I'll send people to the website, greatlakesbassfishing.com, greatlakesbassfishing.com, and good luck on the rest of the season.
Yeah, Mike, you have a great 4th, and we'll have to get out one of these days.
I would look forward to that, and I will indeed. That's Gerry Gostenik of Great Lakes Bass Fishing, the website, greatlakesbassfishing.com, greatlakesbassfishing.com, a fish that I don't target, but I got friends who do. Nick Grillo of Michigan brand, who loves to fish walleye with me. If you had a choice with him between fishing walleye or bass, I think he'd go after bass, and I don't blame him after seeing his pictures. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a few more thoughts, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up yet right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. I appreciate you being along with us. I do thank you very much. You can hear the show on radio stations across the state, including WTCM in Traverse City. That's 580 AM. In Tawas, WIOS AM and FM. That's 580 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW, another AM-FM combo at 790 AM, 100.5 FM. In fact, in both Tawas and Saginaw, you can hear the show twice each weekend. I appreciate that. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. I'm here with Jonathan Dent. John doing a great job as always. Appreciate that. Thank you so very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. Need I say more? Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. Why buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? I mean, it's so simple. It's genius. Paul Verone, the company owner, came up with a great concept here. And if you're looking for big sizes, I mean, you need 4, 5, 6X, those can be hard to find. Well, VersaSkins can help you out. And if you're one of the new breed of saddle hunters, If you don't know what that is, you're not a saddle hunter, so don't worry about it. But if you are a saddle hunter, you're looking for a jacket to use for your saddle hunting, VersaSkins can help you out there as well. Go to the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. One more quick reminder. This is your last call. This is your last chance to get involved in our first annual charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. This will be Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. We are full, but we're making room for more. I mean, you know, you can always sneak a few more golfers on the course, right? Love to have you join us if you want to be a part of this inaugural event. Go to the website mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf, where you can sign up to register to play and or sponsor. But don't wait. I mean, as I say, this is your last call. I mean it. We have to get the final numbers in now. But if you want to get involved, we would love to have you there. And again, this is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. I can't think of a better cause than trying to raise money for something to get kids involved in the outdoors. I do have to make a shout out to people who have stepped up and companies who have stepped up so far to help sponsor the event. They include Security Credit Union, Northern Jack Pine branch of the National Deer Association, GFL Environmental Services, my buddy Craig Plowman, Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy, Michigan Brand Meats, Trophies Africa, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, John and Debbie Craves, my brothers and sisters at Trinity Monitor, the Athletic Boosters, and the Wild Game Committee there. Thank you. Fish Junkie Charters, Diebold Insurance, I apologize, Yider Insurance, the Heine Knott Vernon Insurance Agency, Pizza Sam's of Midland, Whitmore Lake Rod and Gun Club, and T.D. Johnson Forestry. These are all individuals and groups who have stepped up and says, we want to be a part of this. We want to help raise money to get kids involved in the outdoors. Again, we have a few more spots. We can make room, but I mean, do it now. If you want to join us, do it now. Go to the website mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf. Another reminder, July is the time to apply for your fall turkey tags. This is one of these things that slips through, right? You're involved in other things and you forget about it and go, oh. Now this fall, when you're in the ground blind or in a tree stand out there bow hunting, you know it happens every year. You're going to have turkeys come wandering by. And in the fall, you can shoot either sex. You can shoot a hen or a tom. So you know you're going to be out there. The deer hunting is going to be slow, and you're going to have a flock of birds wander through. Wouldn't it be nice to have that fall turkey tag in your pocket so you can take advantage of it? So July is the time to apply for that. July has also been officially named Michigan Wildlife Conservation Month. It has been proclaimed or declared by our governor. I'm sure a Michigan Wildlife Council had a hand in this. I support Michigan Wildlife Council and what they're doing. They're trying to get the word out to non-hunters and anglers in Michigan about the role that we play as the ultimate conservationist. So I welcome the exposure that a proclamation or a declaration like this provides. But to me, every month is Wildlife Conservation Month, right? Because we, as hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers, we are the ultimate conservationists. We pay for conservation. We pay for habitat. We pay for stocking programs. We pay for planting programs. We pay for maintenance. It's us with our license dollars and with the money we spend on gear through the Pittman-Robertson Act. So I get nothing against bird watchers, but they don't buy any licenses. They don't pay any fees to access property. They get to enjoy their sport, and God bless them. I mean, I love to watch birds, but they get to enjoy their sport in large part because of what hunters and anglers and trappers and shooters do. So enjoy this Wildlife Conservation Month and enjoy this, what I hope is a long 4th of July weekend for you. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to wrap it all up, as we always do, with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. What do you like? What do you dislike? How do you disagree with me? I want to hear from you. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. I hope you are enjoying, if you're listening to the broadcast version of the show, I hope you are enjoying this 4th of July weekend. You know, we are so blessed to live in this country. We have so many freedoms and opportunities. And again, I'll go back to the word blessings. And I hope that you are getting a chance this weekend to take advantage of that. And maybe some of that weekend celebration will be on the grill or cooking up some fish or wild game or something. If you're doing that, we gotta check in with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. David, welcome back.
How's it going, Michael?
Wonderful. Could not be better. How about you?
About the same. You been fishing lately?
I haven't been out in a few days. Well, Mother Nature has not cooperated with me. On the days, I say this every week, on the days that I can fish, it blows, and the days I have to work, it's calm. But I did sneak a couple of trips in, and we got some real nice fish, and I've got some more trips coming up.
Good.
Hey,
on page, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, and we're leading into the same topic here, of all of the different things I had at the Old Dixie Inn and Oscar and Joey's, and I mean, I think I had every kind of fish or wild game you could possibly eat. There was one thing that really stands out, and it was one thing that you couldn't eat, I couldn't eat enough of, and it was one thing that everybody who tried it absolutely fell in love with it. And I feel like it was a fairly easy thing to cook up. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, the crawdads.
Yeah.
Crayfish.
And are these just, I mean, the crayfish, the crawdaddies we'd see swimming around any Michigan stream or river?
Yep, that's the ones. But the ones that you buy from the grocery store or from like a fish shop, they're kind of commercially raised down in the bayous.
Okay, but it's the same thing. You could capture them in Michigan and cook them up?
Oh, my gosh. We used to, as a kid, my dad loved to go to Fletcher's Pond, and we used to take flashlights and a small net and a stick, and you shoot them into the net backwards, and then keep them out of the mud, put them in like a fish trap, and so that they can't dig down into the mud, because I think they filter the mud for their food. And
how do you cook them?
Well, what we used to, crawdads, they make a great bait for a number of tasty fish,
I'm not going to waste them on bait. I'm not wasting those things on bait. Let me tell you this. After tasting yours, I'm not wasting them.
Okay. And, fish just love them, and so do I, So if you live near clean water where you are indeed a lucky person, and they may be caught, you can trap them. They make crawfish traps. You can use hook and bait, line and bait, or at night with a net like we used to do as a kid. And they just wait along the shoreline, and you shoo them into your net backwards, because they all swim backwards, And so if you want to steam them, bring a pot of water to boil, place the crawfish in a strainer, and suspend them above the water, and sprinkle them with Old Bay seasoning or crab boil, either one you like, or if you just want it plain. Cover them up and steam them until they're done. It might take anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. And as the old saying goes, pinch the tail, suck the heads. You twist the tail away from the body, suck the juices out of the upper body, which is real tender, tasty also. And you clean the tail and you shell them just like a shrimp, Dip in melted butter. Now, if you do that, before you eat them, you want to clean the tails up real good and, sprinkle it lightly with Cajun or cayenne pepper, and then you roll them in. You take a dry drakes, mix some drakes with a beer batter, thin, nice and thin, so you don't get a heavy coating, and then in dry drakes again. So you're going to go dry, wet, dry, shake them off real good, separate the tails in one of them deep fryers or a Fry Daddy or Grandpappy or whatever you got, or even in a frying pan, heat the oil. Just cook them till they're golden brown because they're already cooked. Drain them on a paper towel, catch lots, and eat them fast because they're really good with as you very well know.
Oh, my goodness. They're ridiculously good. They're stupid good.
I like them better than shrimp even.
Oh, I think I do too. And, over the years, you introduced a lot of people to these, and me through you, I'd say, hey, bring out some crawfish. And we'd put them in front of these people, and honestly, I never saw one person that did not fall in love with these things.
You're absolutely right. We used to sell a lot of them when we had the restaurant. And if you're going to make a beer batter, you want to mix dry drakes with whatever favorite beer you like. And you want to make it thinner than, like, say, maple syrup, because if you get too heavy of a coating, it kind of distracts away from the shellfish itself. So you want to go dry, wet, dry, deep fry them and eat them.
Eat them, and then just keep eating them and eating them.
Myers grocery store sells it, or any good. You can buy them by the pound, already cleaned and cooked. So all you got to do is defrost them and put them in the beer batter and drakes, and then and then deep fry them. My gosh, are they good? And,
David, thanks for reminding me about that one. I appreciate that. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next time, buddy.
Be safe and sane out there for the holiday.
There we go. Good advice from wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. I appreciate you listening, whether it's the broadcast version of the show or the podcast show. Thank you so very much. My name is Mike Avery. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Love to hear from you, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.